Hey, welcome back. I'm Norbu from Nowhere. Welcome to the video where you get to learn Framer for free. Now this is the second part. If you have already watched the first part, welcome. If you haven't, and if you are a complete beginner, I highly recommend you do. But if you aren't a complete beginner and you just want to learn about responsiveness, welcome as well. So let's dive right in where we left off and see what we have. So we have our hero section. We've got logos, buttons, texts, buttons. So this is what we have. It's just box. It's just boxes and boxes. Right? Before I start, let me give you one tip. Remember how we made this? We first drew a frame. We went down on the fill and selected image, chose our image, and then uploaded the Netflix logo. We can do the same thing even faster. So we'll just take this image from our desktop or any other folder and just drag into our frame. Hold on. First we have to select the frame, the window, and then drag it. And there we have it. So I can now delete these old ones. Now I have the logo with me. And let me just resize this. Okay, cool. Now let's get into making things responsive. Before we begin with responsiveness, I want to let you know that even if you don't understand in the first go, don't worry. All right. Throughout this video, we'll be practicing how to make things responsive a lot, and I will be going through each and every step. Step 1 is to group our layers together. For example, I'm going to select this logo, this English button, and our sign in button, right click, and add a frame around it. As you can see here, we have our frame which nests these three child elements. So I'm going to name this nav bar. Similarly, I'm going to do these three texts. One, press and hold down the shift button to make multiple selections. So I'm going to select these three texts, right click, and add a frame around it and name this hero text. Okay, I'm going to select these two elements, right click, and add a frame around them. Let's call this CTA. So now when you see here on the left panel, you can see that we have three different groups, navbar, the hero, and the CTA. So the reason we did this is when we group layers together, it makes sense in our layout, as you can see here. This gives a structure to our website when you're making things responsive. It's going to be very, very easy. Okay? Step 2 is to add stacks to our frames. So we're going to select our navbar and go down on the layouts, click the add button, and Framer automatically adds a stack. Now for ease of understanding, I'm just going to increase the height of the frame and give it a fill so you guys can see easier. Let's select blue. All right. Now, before we begin learning more about stacks, what you have to know is that it is essentially a frame. As you can see, if I just expand this, it is still a frame which groups these three layers together. But this is a special kind of frame where we have more options to choose and customize our elements inside them. So the first thing you should know about stacks is that these properties only affect the direct children. For example, this logo and these two buttons are direct children of the navbar. But this text, which has English written on it, is under the language button and is not under the influence of the navbar stack. Make sense? That is why we do not see this text somewhere on the outside. But if we had it outside, for example, let's take it outside now. See, it now becomes a part of the stack. But if it is inside the button, we don't see it. So what you learn right now is that the stack layout affects the direct children and not the grandchildren. Okay, that's the first thing. So now, moving down, let's come to the direction. So this is the horizontal stack. Can you see it's horizontal because we have 3 columns, 1, 2, and 3. So if it changed from horizontal to vertical with this button, we'd get rows. But what we want is a column stack, so we're going to stick to column. And distribute is how the elements are distributed inside the stack. So if we select start, it's going to go to the starting edge of the frame, center, it's the bang middle of the frame, and the end side of the frame. Now these are good. Space between. We have space between the elements. If I do space around, we have space between the elements and half the space between the edge element and the border. And if I do space evenly, there is even spacing among the elements themselves and as well as the border. Cool. Now with align, you can just see for yourself what it does. If I do align start, it goes to the top. Now this is the middle and this is bottom align. Cool. Let me just get it back to middle. So wrap, let it wrap be for now. Now let's do padding. So padding right now it's 0. So if I do space, let's do align bottom so you can see padding easily. So if I give a padding of 10, can you see how the spacing increased? So padding is the space between the borders of the frame and the elements inside them, meaning there's a set amount of pixel values which you can give around the border so that the elements don't touch the border. Cool. So this is a single value, meaning for all of the 4 sides they have the same value: top, right, bottom, and left. If you want to give individual values, for example here, if I just select this button, then I get to set the individual values. So if I do top, let's just do top 0, right, let's do 100. Let's see what happens. It gets shifted a little bit because this amount of space is reserved for padding. So from bottom, I'm going to give it 50. So 50 pixels on the bottom is reserved for padding space, so the elements can't come inside that area. For left, let me just let it be 0. So I'm just going to reset this to 0, and that is padding. Now let's try and figure out how you can get this. So let me just take this back and remove the fill. So now what we can do, actually let me keep the fill. So we want these 2 buttons on the edge of the frame and this to be on the edge. So we know one part of it. So instead of space evenly, if we just do space between, we now have them on the edges. But now the problem is that this button is supposed to be with this. So how can we achieve that result? I already gave you a hint. The stacks only affect the direct children. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these 2 buttons and add a frame. Actually, you should just learn adding a stack. So I'm going to add a stack. It's the same as adding a frame and then giving it a layout. Let me just do it for you. So I'm going to I just undid what I did. I'm going to right click and add a frame. And after I add a frame, I add a layout. It's essentially the same thing. Cool. So now I can resize my stack and I'm going to give its width to fit content, meaning the width of this stack. Let's rename the stack. Let's rename it to buttons. Nav buttons. So the nav buttons, let me increase its width. So now its width, if I set it to fit content, it's going to be only as wide as the elements inside it. So these kind of sizing options we will have to be used to with these. Cool. So this is one with sizing option known as fit content. So we now have what we want. These 2 are on the sides. This is on the left edge. Cool, we got this. So now with our frame selected, let me just align it to the center and remove the fill. We have our desired result. Now I'm going to select our hero text frame and then select layout. Automatically adds a stack. This time Framer automatically detected that it's a vertical stack since we have rows on top of rows on top of rows. Now we already know the distribute property. If we do start, it's going to move to the top. If we do end, it's going to move to the bottom. If we do space between, there's going to be space between. So all those things, I'm just going to keep it to center. Align, you already know. If I do left align, the text is going to align to the left, center align, and right align. Cool? Cool. Now, let's forget wrap for now. Let's focus on gap. Now, gap is the distance or the spacing between the elements. So if I just increase its value to 20, the size of the space increases. I can use a slider as well, or I can just click and drag these pink handles. Cool. So we made our hero text into a stack. Let's do the same thing with the CTA. Go ahead, you can do it before me. So I'm just going to select the CTA frame under layout and add a stack. So we have now completed step 2, that is adding stacks to our groups. But why did we do this? This is explained by step 3, which is making it responsive. So let's just focus on the nav bar for now. When I make the window smaller, the nav bar remains the same, but on the tablet breakpoint, can you see the logo size just decreased? The logo size decreased, and as I go down even further, the English text was removed and only the icons remain. And if I go even small, nothing changes. They are still on the side. So let's achieve this. To preview this on how it works for us, we're going to select this play icon next to desktop, or you can go up to the top right and press the play icon here to preview our site. We're going to select this bar, click and drag, and this emulates different screen sizes. So now you can see what our website is going to look like on the biggest of screens, on smaller screens, on tablets, and on phones, and it is not looking good. This is not what we want. We want our elements to stick to the edges even when you go down in size. So let me just press the back button up here and let's see how we can achieve that. So to achieve that, we have to work with breakpoints, and that is step number 3. Breakpoints. We're going to click here next to breakpoint, add a tablet breakpoint, and we're going to add a phone breakpoint as well. Before we start working, there's one thing you must know. This isn't a different version of the website. This is the same website with the same properties, and we are just previewing this on our canvas so it makes our work easier. Cool? So whatever changes we make to the desktop is going to be reflected on these smaller breakpoints. For example, let me just take this logo and drag it over here to the right. Now can you see on the tablet the logo is somewhere on the right as well? Right, so whatever happens on our desktop trickles down. The changes trickles down to smaller breakpoints. This is known as cascading. So we want our nav bar to shrink down its width as we get to smaller devices. So how might we be able to do that? Now, over on the size section, you can see that the width is currently fixed. The nav bar is 1080 pixels wide. But what we want with our tablet is we don't want a fixed width. We want it to fill only the space that is available to it. So we want it to fill, but fill is currently grayed out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select the hero section on the desktop breakpoint. The hero section with it selected, we're going to convert the entire section into a stack. Now, can you see by doing this, we have converted our hero section into a stack of its own, and it only affects the direct children. That is the navbar, the hero texts, and the CTA. And the changes trickled down. Simple to understand so far? Okay, so let's get back how we want them to be. So we want this to be on the top. So how might we achieve this? So with our hero section selected, we have special properties for stacks. So, so I'm going to do distribute space between. So now we have our navbar up top, but we also have our CTA. So now we have our navbar right up top, but our CTA is down as well. So we'll forget about this for now. And instead, since there is not much space between the edge and our navbar, I'm going to add a top padding to the hero section. So with our hero section selected, I'm going to press on this and give the top padding of, let's say, 20. So now our elements get pushed down by 20 pixels because this space is reserved for padding. Cool. So now we have to select this navbar under tablet, and under size, you can now see the width. We have fill. So what happens if we select fill? It only fills up the space available to it. That means the width has now shrunk down to fit the size, the window size of the tablet. But this is kind of not working for us, right? Because this is right to the edge. So what can we do to give it some space? Padding. If you said padding, you are right. So I'm going to go here, and so the right, I'm just going to give it 20. Bottom, I want it to be 0. And left, I want it to be 20. So only giving space to the right and left sides. So we have what we need. Cool. But on our tablet, the size was a bit smaller. So let me just make it a little bit smaller. Cool. This looks good so far. So what about our phone breakpoint? So we're going to select the navbar on the phone. Its width is still 180. So I'm just going to select and give it a fill. And I am now going to give it the padding as well. So go to padding, right. Instead of 20, for phone, I'm going to give it 10. For the left, I'm going to give it 10. And bottom has to be 0. And if you remember, for our phone breakpoint, we didn't have that English written. And also, the logo is much smaller. So I'm going to select the logo, and I'm going to decrease its size. So, and English, I'm just going to write E and G to make it smaller, and reduce the width a little bit. And for sign in as well, let's reduce its height also to 34. Okay, let's reduce its height to 34. Cool. Now let's have a look. As you can see, whatever changes we made to the phone didn't affect the tablet. Whatever changes we made to the tablet didn't affect the desktop. But the changes we make to our desktop can affect these smaller breakpoints. All right, we just completed the navbar. That is awesome. So now let's move down to making things responsive with this. Okay, actually before that, let's preview our website. Just focus on the navbar and let's see what happens. On big screens, all good. On small screens, all good. On our tablet, everything looks fine. And on phone breakpoint, we get it smaller. Cool. So far so good. Now let's focus on the hero section. For our desktop, this 1080 909 width is okay. Let's see what happens when you go to a tablet breakpoint. On tablet breakpoint, it becomes smaller. The entire texts become smaller. So let's do that. So on desktop it's fine. On tablets the size decreases. So right now we have 48. Let's do 36. Okay, so for this, the middle text, let's do 20. For this as well, let's do, instead of 20, let's do this 18. And since we decrease the size, the spacing looks too big, so I'm going to go to gap property and give it 20. Okay, now let's look at phone breakpoint. Oh, one more thing. Can you see the frame surrounding these hero texts? It's extending from the tablet window. So what can we do so that it fits only the available space? Fill, you're right. So on the width, instead of fixed, I'm going to give it fill. So now we have it. Cool. So with our phone breakpoint selected, we're going to select the hero section and give it the same width of fill. Hey, we just gave it fill, but the text didn't shrink or move down in a second line. Why is that? Because our individual texts have a fit property, meaning they're going to extend its size to fit all the available letters inside. So instead of fit, what we're going to do, we want it to fill its parent in size. Right? So for example, this hero section, it fills up the parent size, and in our case it was the hero section. So for our phone hero section, we have it as fill, but for the text inside we have it as fit. So if I just change it to fill, can you see it came down to a second line, but it also moved up. That's why we can't see it. But if I scroll it down, so it's right there. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We are first going to decrease its size with the first text selected. If you're having difficulty selecting the text here, you can just select them from the left panel. The first text, decrease its size from 48 to 32. Let's just do 30. Okay, and with the second text selected, I'm going to give it 18, and the third text as 18 as well. Okay, 18, but it's extending. So what we're going to do, width, we're going to set it to fill. Okay, we have it, but we now have a problem. The alignment of the text is not good. So we go down on the text, we're going to give, under align, we're going to give it a center align. So now our text is aligned in the center. Same with the first text, center align. Same with this one, let's just give it center align. Cool. We now have what we wanted. Let's have a preview over here of our main website. Okay, works good. But can you see that they have some spacing, this padding between the text and the edge of the screen? So we're going to give them as well. So on the padding, we're going to give, let's say, 10 pixels or 20 pixels. So as soon as we give 20, this word shows came down to a next line. Okay, so let's preview this from the desktop breakpoint. All right, so with our desktop selected, we're going to preview this and just focus on the text. Okay, big screens are good. When you go to tablet, it becomes a bit smaller. When you reach phone, it becomes smaller, and as you go smaller, the text starts to wrap. Awesome. Oh, hey, look at that. On the smallest screen size, phone size, we can't see the text down below. Why might that be? Let's solve that. So with our phone, we had a problem with our phone breakpoint, and it's getting cut off. So with the parent of these texts, that is the hero text selected, I'm going to give it a fill for ease of understanding. Let's give it red, bright red. Sorry. Okay, here. That good? So now let's preview our phone breakpoint. Let's see what happens. As we go even smaller, can you see the texts are getting cut off in that? And over here as well, TV shows and more, even the top text is getting cut off. Let's see why. So if we check the parent element, which we just gave a fill to, where it's getting cut off, and let's go to its height property, because it's fixed. Because it's fixed, once the text start to wrap, the contents start to increase in height, but its parent, the hero text, has a fixed height. That's why we can't see once it goes to a new line and outside the boundary. So what we can do is set the height of the parent to fit content. Now when we do that, let's preview our site again. No matter how small or big we make our site, it fits. The height automatically adjusts, and that is fit content, or automatic height and width. Cool? Cool. So I'm just going to remove the fill from the phone breakpoint. Now we have it. We have completed two things in our hero section. So now is the time for CTA. So let's see how CTA looks here on the phone breakpoint. Actually, let's start with the desktop breakpoint. With the desktop breakpoint, we have what we have. On the tablet, same thing. But on the phone, it moves to a new line. So let's achieve that. So for now, we have this phone breakpoint, all good. Tablet breakpoint, all good. Phone breakpoint. What can we do to get this on the second line? We just have to edit the direction property of our layout. From horizontal, we'll just change it to vertical. There we have it. But same problem, it's getting cut off. So for the height of the CTA frame, which is our enclosing frame selected, then we just change it to fit content. And there we go. Problem solved. Oh, look at this. The width is extending outside the boundary. So width, fill, so that it fills only the available space of the parent. Now let's preview this. On our phone, all good. As you get to bigger screen size, there, in one line. Cool, cool. But we have one problem. This CTA is very close to the hero text and not right at the bottom. How do we achieve that? So we'll select this and let's try to move it a bit. No, it's not moving. Why? Because this is a child of the CTA stack. And stack, although we get special properties we can use, once we use those properties, we can't do freeform designing. So what might we be able to do? I think we've done this before with these two buttons. Remember? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select the CTA frame as well as the hero text frame. Hold down Shift and click. And with these two groups selected, I'm just going to right click. Actually, no. Oh, see, when I right clicked, it selected only the text. So make sure that both of the frames are selected and then right click. Oh, but now when I right clicked, it got moved out of the selection. So it just was a plain right click on the image. And we can see that here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to select the hero text and CTA on the left panel, right click here, and then add a stack. So when I added a stack, it automatically gives it a center align by default. So I can now change the gap value. Let's give it 30. And okay, this is a little bit in the middle. So now for distribute instead of center, I'm going to do start. Does that solve our problem? All right, that solves our problem. Let's look at tablet. Tablet looks good. Phone looks, oh, but once I made that change, can you see? Because of the change in the desktop, the fill property, which we had set it to fill the width, because this is a new stack altogether, it gets added to tablet, but with fixed. The changes trickle down from the desktop. So I'm going to change this from rows to, I'm going to call this, let's give it any name we want. Lower part. Lower part. That's what I would come up with. So lower part selected on the tablet, select the lower part and give it a width of fill. With our phone, lower part selected, give it a width of fill. Okay, cool. Do you see any issues? I don't see any issues. Let's give it a final preview. The phone looks good. Let's increase our size. Tablet looks good. And our desktop size looks good. And we are set. Awesome. We just finished making the hero section responsive. So now, let's continue with this layout. Congrats! So far you've done a great job, and this is going to be much easier now that you have the basics down. You just completed a huge milestone in learning Framer. Congratulations. Most people give up in the beginning of the video, according to my analytics, and you stayed through. You're awesome. Okay, so let's not lose our momentum and let's see what we have next. So for our first feature section, on top of that, we have a gray bar. So let's achieve that. It's pretty easy. Just add a frame and give it a small height, give its fill color gray, and then increase the height of the desktop by quite a much, and then add another frame which is going to serve as our first feature section. Give it a black fill. Okay, we have what we wanted. But there's another way we can do things. So I'm just going to delete this gray bar and I'm going to select the desktop itself, and it has a fill which is white. As you can see here, it's white. So I'm just going to select the fill, give it black. Sorry, give it gray actually. Give it gray. So now we have a gray fill. Fair enough? Okay. So let's get started with our feature section. I'm just going to name this feature number 1. So with our feature 1 section selected, I'm just going to draw a frame for the right side. So this is going to serve as our right side, and I'm going to create another frame for the left side. Okay, so now what we want is our frames, the left side and the right side, to actually be top and bottom on smaller devices. See how the direction of the stack changes? Over here there are columns, and over here they become rows for smaller devices. So with our section selected, I'm going to give it a stack, and it automatically gives it a column or a horizontal stack. But for our smaller devices, like the tablet, we want a vertical stack. Same with our phone. We're going to give it a vertical stack. Cool? Cool. So now let's get down to our text. Okay. So we need 2 texts here. And let me just click the text button or press the T on your keyboard and to get the text. So I'm just going to copy this, enjoy on your TV, and paste this in. Now you'll notice on the text that Framer automatically gave it a style of H2. Now this is very useful, but I don't want to confuse you right now. So I'm just going to remove this. And I'm going to give it a color of white and the size of 48. And I don't know if you've noticed, but the font we've been using is actually Inter. So I'm going to remove Manrope and just select Inter. Alright, instead of bold, I'm going to give it black, make it even thicker. And I'm going to add the second line of text. Let me just copy this. Command C, create a new text, Command V. It has come to a new line, so I'm just going to remove the second line by pressing backspace. Cool. Now you must have noticed that the text expands all the way. Why is that? Because the width has been set to auto or fit. So instead of fit, if I change it back to fixed, I can then change its width size. Cool. But what do we want? We want the text to wrap. As you can see, the text here wraps to a second line. The extra words come down to a second line or third line. So how did we achieve this? We achieved this already with our hero section over here. What did we do? We made the text fill, and we made its parent as well fill. So let's do that. So I'm going to take this text and give it a fill width. But hey, the fill has been grayed out. Why? Because fill is only available for stacks. So I'm going to change this left side, which is just a frame. Let me rename this to left side. And I'm going to add a stack to it. Now when I added a stack, it automatically puts these two lines of text, which is its direct children, inside the stack arrangement. And let me give it, there's the small space, so let me give it an align. Let me select the left, give it a left align. All right, cool. And now let me select this and give the width of the parent, that is the left side itself, a fill. But hey, this takes up more than the right side. So we'll just take the right side and give its width fill as well. So now it has 50% width, and even the left side has 50% width. Let me just rename the right side. So you'll notice it has width of 1 FR value of fill type. So what that means is whatever space the parent has available, one fraction of it it's going to take. So even this is 1 FR. So what happens if we set it 2 FR? So it's going to take 2/3, whereas this is going to take 1/3. Make sense? This is basic fraction. So let me set it back to 1 FR. All right. Now with that done, let's see what we want. We want some spacing from the edge of the window to the text. So how do we do that? Hey, we can use padding, right? So I'm just going to take this option to give individual padding and just give it to the left side, maybe 40. But when we give padding, you'll notice that it's taking up much more space than the 1 FR. For example, let me just give it 100. Did you see this box move a little? Yeah, so what can we do so that we don't break this half and half arrangement we had? So I'm going to give padding back to 0. And here's what I can do. If it's a small value, let's say if it's just 40, this isn't that much noticeable, so we can work with this. But there is another way which we can do, which I will not tell you right now because I don't want to complicate things. So let's just run with this, yeah? So that's fine. Let me just change the text. Oh, hey, can you see this text also has a paragraph style given to it? Remove that and just proceed with how we did things. Color, white, text instead of man rope, I'll give enter. Size, let's do 20, and medium, no, let's make it bold. All right, and the line is the distance between the two lines. 2 is too much. Let me give it 1.5. All right, that's fine. Cool. So now let's see if our text wraps or not. So let me preview the site and see what happens. Okay, hey, the text is wrapping. Works. And on smaller devices, it goes up top. Cool. Cool. All right. So now what we're going to do is just remove the fill of the left side. Okay, so we are getting somewhere. And for the right side, what do we have? We have this image. So I'm just going to insert from media, drag an image into the right side, attach it to the left, increase its size a little, and then under fill, I'm going to choose an image 1, open. All right, so now let me bring your attention to something. Can you see that the image has been cut off because we can't see the end of the stand, like here? So from sizing fill, we're going to change it to fit. Now what this does is this ensures that no matter how we change the dimensions of the parent, the image is always going to fit in such a way that the entirety of the image is shown. Cool? All right, so let me just set it to here. Maybe a little bit bigger. Okay, that looks good. Cool. So now I'm going to remove the fill from the right side. All right, we have our first feature section. Let me preview this to see if it's working on bigger screens. All right, that works. That's okay. That's okay. Okay, but when we get down to smaller screen sizes, we have issues. So we're done with the desktop. Now let's do with the tablet screen size. Okay, the left side, as you can see, has been stretched quite a lot. Yeah. So we're just going to shrink it down, bring it down. This, we're going to bring it down a bit as well. Okay. So let me just select the feature one, the entire section for this. And since you can see that it's getting cut off, the text, the left side, which is supposed to be the top side now, it's getting cut off. So how did we solve that for the text here? That we had the same problem with this. What did we do? We just selected this section, changed its height from fixed to fit content. There we go. That solves our problem. Cool. But let's see. When you come here, the gap isn't that much. So what can we do? We just change the gap value. So with our feature section selected, change the gap to 0. That didn't bring much of a difference. Why? Oh, I see. Because we can change the height of this as well. Let's see how much do they have. Not much on top. Kind of double over here. So how about this? That's fine. That means we'll have to change the way our image is positioned. And you can see that I can position this anywhere. So to position it in the middle of the screen, here's what I'll do. I'm going to come here, top right. We have shortcut align, so I'm just gonna select this. Now it's right in the middle. But I want it to be a little up top, so let me just change the value to here. Now, what is this doing? This is known as spinning. The right side is just a frame, it's not a stack. And the image itself is also a frame. That means if I wanted to stay right in the middle and a certain distance from this line, that is from the left side, if I want it from a certain distance, I can use spinning. And this will come under this position box. Can you see? So it's stating that this blue line states that 37 pixels of distance will always be maintained for the tablet breakpoint. So I actually want this to be 0. Does that work? See? Now, no matter how I bring changes to this page's width, it's always going to be 0 from the left side. Let me undo. All right. But another problem is the text are center aligned. How do we do that? So I'm going to take the left side and give it a center align. Cool. But you'll notice that this text is still left aligned. So I'm going to select the text itself and give it center align. Cool. But hey, this seems to be a little bit to the right. Why is that? Do you remember? Because for the entire left side, we gave a padding of 40 to our desktop breakpoint to get this space. So to remove that space, if I just remove this from the tablet breakpoint, this works. And the 40 is still on the desktop because the changes only cascade down, not up. Cool? All right, so what we can do now is try and preview our website from desktop size. Let's see, all good, all good, all good. Okay, okay, starts to wrap. Okay, now this is the mobile breakpoint. So let's work on our mobile breakpoint. Cool, this works. Oh, the distance. So let me just adjust the distance. Actually, let's see how they're doing it first. Okay, there's some gap here. So let me just select the section itself, the feature section, and give it a height of, oh, it's already fit. Cool, so I can just select the right side and adjust its width, its height accordingly. Looks good. Okay, looks good. Now let's come to mobile section. We see the same problem. The contents are getting cut off. So let me just select the feature section on the phone, give its height to fit content. Yes, you are right. Now let's see. Let's deal with this top part, which is the left side. The height is too much, so let me just adjust the height and reduce the screen the size, the text size, to, let's say, 32. Okay, that's okay. From 20 to 18. Cool, same thing here again. We have the padding on the left, so let me give it 10 on the left and 10 on the right. Cool. What else? This text we want to center align, so I'm going to select the left side again and under align, center. And for the text as well, since the text itself is also left aligned, I'm going to go under text and align, center. That's fine. This much of space seems to be okay. Whereas for the image, let me just reduce its size using the handles. Okay. And let's rearrange this so that it's in the middle. Now, how can we do this again? From the top right, this button, which indicates it's going to be on the center of the screen. Cool. And how far do I want it from? See, can you see this small blue line? It indicates that pinning has been activated for this image. So instead of 105, let's try 10 pixels. Maybe 0. Hey, that looks okay. Let's see on our phone breakpoint. How does it look? Yeah, that's okay. Yep, that's okay. So let me just select the right side and reduce its height. Cool. We now have our first feature section ready and responsive. Let's preview. Works. Works very well. Awesome. So we just did the first feature section. Let's get started with the second one. So I'm just going to select feature 1 once again and just hit Command D or right click and duplicate. And I'm going to drag the duplicated section down. Here we go. So we have our second section. Let's see what it says. Download your shows to watch offline. So let's copy this text. But hey, this is supposed to be left and right. Now this is another benefit of using stacks. So I'm just going to select one side, left or right. And I'm going to use my arrow key to shift it to the right. Right arrow key, left arrow key, right arrow key, left arrow key. So this is one of the benefits of using stacks. So let me just take the text to the right. Cool. And select this text, paste the new text. Hey, it's coming to a fit width. What should we do? From width to fill. Cool. This is fill already. But one thing you should notice is that the spacing, we don't want this. This is only for the feature 1 where the text is on the left. So for here, I'm going to remove the left padding, give it 0. Rather, I give it a right padding of 40 so that the text doesn't touch the screen. And as for the image, I'm going to spin it to the edge. Using this, I can just select this and give it 0. How's that look? Good? Hey, but we have to change the image. So fill, choose image, it's image 2, and open. And there we go. Sizing has been set to fit. All good. All good. So now let's check our tablet breakpoint. Okay, so now we want this image to be down. So how can we take this down and these texts up? Keyboard arrows. Down arrow. Up arrow. Down arrow. Cool. Okay. So let's continue the image itself. How do we position this in the middle of the screen? Top right. Cool. All right, so now we have, this gray bar which you have on the desktop. Do we have this on smaller screen sizes? Yes, we do. So that means that our feature 1, I forgot to rename this. This is supposed to be feature number 2. So let me rename from the desktop itself. That way we don't have to redo on phone and tablet. So I'm going to select this, select feature 2, and drag it down a little. Cool. All right, so now what else do we have? Text has to be center aligned. Text is center aligned. This is already center aligned. That's fine. And we're gonna take the left side, which is supposed to be the top side here. Can you see the right side has a padding of 40? Let's just give it 10, and the left side 10 as well. Okay. This is a little too close for my taste, so instead of 0, I'm going to give the image 10 pixels of pinning from its edge. For the mobile, let's see. Same thing. Select not the frame, select the right side, the parent frame, keyboard arrow down. Works. Cool. Select the text, center align, text is center aligned. Select the parent, which is the left side. Check the padding. The padding is good. Now let's preview this. Okay, let's see. Bigger screens are good. Smaller screen. Hey, look at the smaller screen. The small screen it seems that it has been pinned to the right side instead of staying in the center. So let's go back here. Oh, can you see this blue line over here and over here as well? This tells us that it has been pinned to these sides. So I don't want to pin this. How do I remove the pin? Just select the pin. Click. It's been removed. It's been removed. So if I wanted to be centered again, just top right, center from the top, just 10. Now let's give this a preview. Hey, we did it. Good job. Awesome. Now we just have 2 more sections. Might have to increase the height. So let me just select the desktop, increase its height even more. And now I can just select the feature 1, right click, duplicate. You know what, don't wait for me, you can just continue with the 3rd and 4th section by yourself. Let me just drag the 3rd section. Okay, what else do we have? Watch everywhere. Okay, so I'm going to select the text, select everything, watch everywhere, select this text. You can be doing by yourself, you don't have to wait for me. You already know how to do these 2 sections. If you don't, you can follow along while I'm doing. Change the image, choose image 3, open, and okay, so we have our image 3. Let's come to the tablet section, select feature. Oh, once again I forgot to rename the feature, so this is feature number 3. All right, come to the tablet, select this. We are on the feature 3, and just drag it down a little to get that space. All right, awesome. Let's check the text. Give it a center align just in case. Give it a center. Oh, it has already been centered. This is center aligned as well. This looks good. On mobile, this looks good. Let me preview and check. Looks good, looks good, good. For the fourth section, I'm going to duplicate feature number 2. So feature number 2, Command D to duplicate, drag it down, take it all the way down. Rename this to feature number 4. Download shows to watch offline. What do you have? Create profile for kids. Hey, let's not forget the kids. Delete, add new text. Send children on adventures, membership, done. Copy paste. Alright, so now we on feature 4 has been done. Let's take a look at the tablet. Tablet is missing feature 4. Why is that? Oh, because it seems that it's still stuck here. So I'm going to drag this here. Pretty sure this is good. Oh, hey, the image. So I'm going to change the image from the desktop breakpoint. Otherwise, if I change it from the tablet, it's just going to reflect here and not on the desktop. But if I change the desktop, it's going to reflect on the tablet and the phone. Why? Because the changes trickle down. I'm not going to repeat that anymore. You must be getting irritated. Okay, so upload the 4th image. Cool. All done. All done. Now let's try and preview this. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good. Looks good to me. Hey, we have completed quite a lot. Don't you think so? I think it's time for a break. So, what's the next section? Next section is FAQs. For this, we are going to be learning something interesting called components to get this to work. These accordions. And we have one more CTA. That's no problem. You know we can solve this anytime. And then we have the footer section. That's not difficult as well. So that's the only thing left. I hope you learned quite a lot. Next video where we'll be covering components to create FAQs, to create these kind of accordions, right? And we'll be using the same components to be able to handle these kind of things. Cool. If you had any problem, feel free to comment down below. I'll add my email in the description. You can reach out to me personally. I can help you if I have the time, since I have very less views right now. And that's it. See you in the next one. Bye.